Hey, Martin, it's been a while. Welcome back.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
As always. So, hey, we got these problems going on in the world. We were talking about Italy. Italy, you think, could have a revolution within a few years? I mean, they just elected this new government, which seems hell-bent. To call them Eurosceptic is to put it charitably, isn't it?
Well, the election was basically, what people have to understand is that Italy had no property tax. Real estate was the place you saved money. If you didn't trust the banks, you bought as many properties as you could. You basically just rented them out, and rental income was virtually nothing. It was enough just to pay, taxes. That was it. So in 17, they started revising these things. They put in an actual sales tax. They call it a stamp duty. That if you're going to buy a home, your primary home, then you paid a 2% sales tax when you bought the house. If it was a secondary home, 9% sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about major numbers here. And what you have is that you have Brussels and you have the IMF constantly harping, you have to raise taxes. You have to raise taxes. And the thing that they're focusing on the most is the fact that Italy has only a 4% inheritance tax. I mean, most other places are 15%, 17%, 20%. So they're basically telling Italy that they should be tripling the inheritance tax. And the new government is at least they're Eurosceptic, but maybe not skeptic enough, because nobody's really looking at this stuff long term. And if they go ahead and triple the inheritance tax, you're going to see like an S&L crisis in Italy. I mean, because this is where people have bought houses as their savings. So you're going to create a one-way market, as they did basically with the S&L crisis, because back then it was the Democrats saying, oh, gee, all these people making money off of real estate, we should raise taxes, and they changed the amortization tables. Once they did that, you created a one-way market.
Mm-hmm.
Then everybody wanted to sell. There's no bid. And this is the danger for Italy, and you can see a revolution basically popping up in Italy by 2021. There's just nobody in government, and I don't care if we're talking about Europe, the United States, or Asia. There is no planning. It's like, what do I need for tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
And there's just no thought process. I mean, I just did a piece on New Jersey, okay, fine, we need money for our own pension, so we'll tax water now. I mean, you're already paying, and then they lie about that, and they say, well, it's not a tax, it's a fee. Well, if it's a fee, then it should be a flat fee. No, they want 10 cents per thousand gallons.
Yeah.
So it's a tax. You can call it whatever you want, but if it's going to continue to rise with your usage, it's not a fee like a driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's systemic, and the problem is that politicians there's no qualification whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just look at this girl who was 28, just elected in New York,
Lopez.
in the primary.
Ocasio Lopez.
I mean, fine, nice looking girl, whatever. She was a waitress and a bartender.
She should have stuck to it.
She has zero experience in anything.
Cortez.
And this is why around the world they call it the Trump revolution. But, people don't understand what it is. It's not a left or right view. She was elected in the Democrats, all right, it's part of the same revolutionary process. It's whoever's in power is being basically thrown out. You saw it in Malaysia. You saw it basically in Spain. You have the same thing in Italy, Hungary, the Brit exit. It's systemic, and it's across the globe. It's because politicians have no planning skills. It's just they have looked at people as, well, they're just the dumb sheep, and if we ever need money, we just raise taxes. That's it.
Yeah.
So there's no management skills. And I mean, if you had a business and you kept raising your prices simply because you need money, you're going to be out of business.
Yeah.
They just don't get it. How can, all right, if government is supposed to be efficient, et cetera, then why do you need more than 10%? If you're taxing 10% this year, then next year it's 15, then it's 20. You're obviously confirming you don't know how to manage anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really pretty bad. I mean, why do you always have to raise taxes? And the meaning is because you don't know how to manage anything.
Isn't that the truth? And I mean, you look at states like New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois, and then the new tax bill. It's the death knell for those states, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I worked in Washington trying to help with Social Security. I was asked to design to turn it into a wealth fund. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be privatized. This is back when in the early 90s, and I said, okay, fine. This is the way we do it. We put out people submit their track records, and we allocate money out. And the Democrats wouldn't go for it because they said, well, gee, when we get in, we want to be able to change the fund managers. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is not, you don't give money because who they voted for. It's what's your track record? What have you done? I don't care who we voted for. And that's why Social Security is basically broke, because they could never come to an agreement to simply say, let's manage the country's money, the people's money correctly. No, it's like, what am I going to get out of it?
Hey, and you see
it's like the Clintons when they left the White House. What did they do? They stole a couch.
And the silverware.
Turn it back.
Stole the silverware.
Do you go to a hotel and do you leave with the bed?
If you're the Clintons, you might.
I mean, it's a matter of character. I mean, do you actually do that? I mean, and, okay, fine. I thought it was really mine. So, Congress has to say this is kind of unusual. All right, we'll give it back.
Yeah, we'll just give it back. Right.
It's all the way across the board, and it's just it's terrible. But, that's why they hate Trump so much, is because basically he's not one of them. And he's looking at some of this stuff and saying, hey, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, so what about Trump? I mean, he hasn't been able to cut back on spending. We're still heading towards disaster on that score. And he's limited, by his own party, what he can get accomplished here. What's his next step here to take control of this thing?
I don't think he's going to be able to. It's not a swamp; it's an ocean, and
a deep one.
Yeah, a very deep one, and it's. I mean, this is why they just own him constantly on absolutely everything. No matter what he does, they turn it into something negative. When I go to Asia, I really stunned, and they said, what's wrong with CNN? I said, what are you talking about?
What's right?
From their perspective, Trump has done a fantastic job. They said he's got trade actually being negotiated. He is the first one that got North Korea to walk across the line.
Yeah.
Even with NATO, I mean, he was the first guy that walked into NATO and turned it into a trade dispute.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, you're going to pay more here, otherwise I'm going to block all your he's negotiating instead of what's in it for me.
Yeah.
But I mean it's limited. I mean, because he is so outnumbered. I mean, you take the meeting with Putin. I mean, there's a great example, because I actually was involved. I mean, my case is exactly what Putin was talking about. Putin basically said, fine, you want to come over here and interrogate Russians? Feel free. Let us do the same. And what did he say? I want to come over there and look at basically what was Bill Brower, Hermitage Capital, Republic Bank, because they basically blackmailed Yeltsin.
Yeah.
That's how Putin got in, because they were trying to take over Russia. They were interfering over there. They were actually blackmailing Yeltsin. That they set him up that he stole $7 billion from the IMF loans, and then they wanted him to appoint Baryshnovsky. When he realized he was set up, he turned to Putin, and then Baryshnovsky flees. He's amazingly commits suicide, hanging himself in London. Saffron is killed. All his 23 bodyguards are given a night off. Everybody that was involved is basically dead.
Yeah. Amazing.
But that's what it was about. There was the United States interfering with the Russian elections. And we've interfered with Canada, with France. I mean, come on. We were even tapping Merkel's phone. I mean, they all do this.
Yeah, everybody
this is
taps
standard operational procedure.
Everybody taps everybody's phone, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the NSA has absolutely every phone call in the entire world. And this is their problem. I mean, because they're collecting so much data that it's impossible for them to even go through and defend against a terrorist act that would be in 2 days.
Yeah.
They wouldn't get to it. I mean, here you had like the Boston, guys with the marathon. They were two kids with cell phones. All right. And they couldn't pick that up because they're collecting absolutely everything on everybody. Oh, well, maybe he might have said something. Well, why don't you just focus on what is called probable cause? Then you may have actually prevented it, But when you collect absolutely everybody in the country, 99.999% are not interested in terrorism.
Yeah, there's no filter, which is a real problem.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So then you'll never find something that somebody said on the phone, oh, yes, let's go do this tomorrow.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Trump, is he going to get reelected according to the model?
Probably. But, I mean, if he doesn't really, it's going to be more of a coup. But by the time we get to 2020, honestly, I don't think we have more than 2 to 3 years left. The financial system is really, really cracking, and this is the serious problem. I mean, you have Europe is basically now a third world country. I mean, China's economy is bigger than the EU. I mean, the whole thing, you remember, we're going to create the euro and we're going to be bigger than the United States. And they're just so pathetic. It's crazy. I've been in, I go over to Brussels, at least 3 times a year. And, all they've done is try to basically be authoritarian. They're trying to force everybody to comply with their rules. And the problem is you had Merkel with the refugee crisis. She's the one that just unilaterally stood up and said, oh, I'll take them in because my polls are down. It wasn't submitted to the European Parliament. Nobody voted for this. And then when she creates the nightmare, then, oh, gee, well, we have to support her. And then they dictate to everybody else that you have to take some of these people because Germany can't handle them all.
Yeah.
I mean, it just came out. I mean, the police report leaked out. She's like trying to deport people now because now she realizes that she's about ready to get kicked out because everybody's so angry about this. They can't even find 50% of the people.
Of course not. Who knows where they are?
Nobody knows where they are.
Once you're in any country in the EU, you're in the entire EU. You could be anywhere.
They blended in and they're gone. And they're trying to deport these people. They went, oh, well, they're not really from Syria. Well, where are they? Well, nobody knows. It's just a mess. Complete mess.
That's for sure. And the Italians are rebelling against it now. The new Italian government is sending the ships back. Say, hey, go drown. We don't care.
Well, that's a classic example. Italy was being forced to take in all these people. Then they went to Brussels and they said, well, off of the criteria for our budget, we should get a compensation to take care of all these people. And Brussels said, oh, no, you can't do that. You still have to comply with this. So then Italy said, all right, fine. Well, we're going to allow them, we'll give them passports and we'll let them go north. Then they send in troops to block anybody from moving.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you doing? There's no rational understanding here. There's a serious problem. And they just try to force their way through it. So, yeah, Italy's got to, say, okay, fine, that's it. We can't afford this.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I say that, you're probably looking at a revolution because trying to work with Brussels is impossible. And so at the end of the day, they're going to have to leave the euro. That's it. The euro is basically going to collapse.
Yeah. So, and we see it again. It's been declining against the dollar. Not that the dollar has been so healthy, inherently healthy, but relative to the world's other currencies, it's the last man standing, right?
It's the prettiest of the three ugly sisters, they say. China's not ready. Still has, currency controls and things of this nature. I mean, that's why real estate over there has been doing so well, because people, if they can't get the money out of the country and they don't necessarily trust the banks, so they've been buying property.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of similar to Italy in that respect. And that's why Bitcoin was doing so well. Nobody, it's with Bitcoin. No, it wasn't Bitcoin. More than 80% of all the terminals were in China. It was just a money laundering operation. They were using Bitcoin to get the money out, and then they'd sell the Bitcoin and go buy property in Vancouver.
Yeah. Yeah, Vancouver, as they call it now, is just up there last week. All you got to do is pick up the rug a little bit and just look. But China will eventually become the financial capital of the world. But they're getting there slowly. But they're not quite ready for prime time just yet. They are the second largest economy in the world, but they're still trying to control the currency. That's why Japan never really made it. In Japan, if you wanted to issue a note or a bond in Japanese yen, you had to get approval from the Ministry of Finance. The dollar is the world's currency because I can issue a bond to you in dollars in Singapore. We don't have to go to Washington to ask permission. Can we denominate our security in dollars? Anybody can. And that's why you also have third world countries with massive dollar debts. They've issued all these bonds in dollars, and that's why you have emerging market debt crisis that's building. As the dollar goes up, these people can't pay back. They've lost a ton of money on the foreign exchange. Right. Yeah. Very true. Very true. And in effect, it was the biggest short of all times. How much longer is that going to go on for, do you think?
Honestly, I doubt you're going to be able to see this continue much beyond about 2021 at the max. I do think we're probably going to have some sort of a currency reset But the euro has basically shot itself in the foot. I mean, I've been in meetings, and they wanted to take away trading in the euro from Britain. And the reason, if the euro comes under attack, they want to be able to, outlaw short selling and stuff like that. So I asked him, I said, okay, fine. This is just being punitive to Britain. What do you mean? I said, are you going to take it away from New York, from Chicago, from Tokyo, from Hong Kong, from Shanghai? And they look at you and they go, well, no, just Britain. And I said, well, you're not going to be able to create, what are you trying to do with the euro? You're trying to turn it into the old Soviet, ruble that nobody can trade it?
Yeah. Crazy.
I mean, this is the problem with them. They outlaw short selling bonds unless you have them. They just think that they can keep some sort of massive control over the economy to make it, to prevent it from crashing, that would prevent them, that would cost them their jobs.
So,
I mean, honestly, when I go to Brussels, it is no longer about what's good for the continent. The heck with the people, the heck with the economy. It's all about, gee, if the euro goes, we lose our pensions and our jobs. That's it.
So, getting back to Bitcoin for a minute. So, it was a big money laundering scheme, still is to some extent. But is it going to come back, or is there going to be another cryptocurrency that takes its place, do you think?
No, I mean, basically the cryptocurrency phase is kind of done, in that most of the countries have come out against it now, because it was basically being used for moving money around. And then you had a lot of people that were believing the nonsense that, this is going to replace the dollar, it's going to replace all central banks. I mean, the governments are the ones with the tanks and the guns.
Yeah.
Do you really think that they're going to let something like that happen? All they got to do is declare it illegal.
Yeah.
And, you got some? Well, you go to jail. That's it.
Yeah, like I said, if you were looking at 5 years for possession with intent to distribute Bitcoin, how many brave people out there would be trading Bitcoin?
Look, I retired. I used to make markets in gold. After 1980, they just walked in and they declared me to be a bank. I looked at them and they said, well, we realized you didn't understand that you were a bank. I said, no, I did not. And they basically, the excuse was, well, they never actually demonetized gold as money. They just closed the gold window. So therefore, it's still money. I said, yeah. Okay, fine. So therefore, our interpretation is you're a bank, and you should have been reporting everybody that bought and sold more than $10,000.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, so that was it. I mean, I that's why I retired. I mean, they went out and ordered like 3,000 of our clients. And, and I talked to my lawyers. I said, what is this? He says, look, you'll spend millions of dollars in legal fees. You'll get to a federal court, and the federal judge is always going to rule in the favor of the government.
Yeah, you're going to lose anyway. That's
it's impossible.
You can't
they're going to determine that you're a bank, and that's it. So that's why I quit. I said, all right, fine, I'm retiring. The heck with this. I don't want to be a banker and have to report on everybody that does business with me. I mean, it's ridiculous. All they have to do with Bitcoin is do the same thing. Oh, it's really a brokerage, so you got to be registered, or it's a bank, or some other, thing like that. And then everybody that has a terminal, that's it.
Yeah.
Good night, Irene.
And they have the ability to basically hack everybody, right? I mean, they can know.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't. When you're talking about money, it's kind of like they say, never walk between a bear and its cub.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Never walk between money and the government.
Yeah. Yeah. And the right to issue currency That's all of the government's power just about derives from that nowadays in the modern
Well, it's not
state.
so much that. It's the fact that it's taxes. Mm-hmm. There's a big Canadian case that has been going on for over a year. In a state, the guy basically, the executor was a Canadian but had relatives over here in America. So what they did, they basically settled the state. He wanted to get the money to them fast. So instead of wiring it, he gets a bank check and sends it out. And then what happens? The border seizes it. Says, oh, a bank check is the same thing as cash. $500,000, and it's been in limbo for over a year.
It's ridiculous. So,
I mean, this is the point. I mean, every time I come back, not just the United States, but even when I travel to London, I was going from Brussels to London, took the train. Mm-hmm. So I had just finished a meeting there in Parliament, so I had a suit and tie on. I'm running over to London, I would get a hotel there and get changed for meetings over there. So I'm really the only guy with a suit and tie on the train. Everybody else is in jeans and sneaks. I'm the one called over.
Yeah.
How much money you got? Excuse me? I said, well, I'm an American. That still wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Where'd you buy the ticket? I said, Brussels. I'm over here for meetings. I go back, and I'm flying home from Frankfurt. I said, I'm not an expat. I'm not living here in Britain. Then they would finally let me go. But I had to prove where I bought my ticket.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, that's totalitarianism at its best, right?
If you get on a train from Switzerland to Luxembourg that passes through France, they're stopping them, and they're going on the trains and searching everybody's bags for money.
Unbelievable.
It's just wholesale confiscation.
Yeah. So is there anything we could do about this, or what do we do here? Martin, you said...
I don't know. I mean, I think that's basically when you what revolutions are all about. It's
You mentioned gold. You were seeing it going higher in the summer. You still sticking to that?
No, afterwards. I mean, we had the little rally. Then we basically have gone back down. Gold is not ready yet. Plus, a lot of the people that were in gold, they switched to the Bitcoin stuff. So, I mean, gold. You have to understand is that gold does not go up with inflation or any of those scenarios. It's all kind of nonsense. Yeah. What it goes up with is when the confidence in government collapses. Mm-hmm. At that stage in the game, basically anything tangible rises. The stock market will rise. Yeah. I mean, everything will go up at that stage. I mean, that's, even the German hyperinflation, when it was over, they issued a new currency. What was it backed by? Real estate.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So this idea of hyperinflation means that the currency declines against everything that's tangible. Mm-hmm. So it's not just gold or or something like that. It's across the board. The disadvantage of gold today versus even 25 years ago, honestly, you could hop on a plane with gold, 20 years ago with no problem. I mean, now, good luck.
Yeah. Yep. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
You take $10, $20 gold pieces, TSA will confiscate it from you. Yeah. Oh, that's more than $10,000. And they know what the value is. Italy, you know what they're doing over there? People were getting a lot of gold jewelry, very heavy chains and stuff like that. Yeah. If it looks like you got too much on, they take it off and weigh it.
Yeah. Even on the wearable stuff, huh?
Yeah, it's wow. It's getting, this hunt for money is just pervasive. Yeah. And unfortunately, we're going to have to put up with more and more of it because until, this is what the Trump revolution is about. And the 28-year-old in New York who is on the Democratic side, it's not a particular philosophy. It's basically who's ever in power, just throw them out.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
You saw the same thing in 1933. You had the extreme right, Hitler gets elected. You have FDR on the socialist side in the United States, and then you had Mao, who was extreme left. So it wasn't a particular philosophy. Mm-hmm. It was whoever pitched the best thing at that particular time against whoever was in power.
So it's just a product. It's an appealing product. What appeals more, right?
Yeah. So it's not. It's not a particular thing. It's just that we're getting to the point that it just becomes unsustainable. Mm-hmm. I mean, Illinois. It's just, what do? The court rules. It's in the Constitution, so you can't even negotiate.
Yeah.
With these pensions. So all they do is they just keep raising taxes and 25% increase in property taxes, another 30%. I mean, you make it impossible for anybody to live.
Yes, very true. Very, very true. Sad state.
Your house values declined. The same thing's happening in California. I mean, it's California now has more people leaving than going to it.
Who would have thought?
New Jersey, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania. It's all the same story. Everybody's moving either to Florida. There's only 7 states without an income tax.
7 or 9. You got South Dakota, Alaska. Nobody's moving to Alaska. You got New Hampshire. You have Tennessee, Nevada, Florida, and I'm sure I'm missing one in there. Texas, of course. So that's it. That's your choice, huh? And look at the states
most
growing.
Of them seem to be coming to Florida or to Texas.
Florida and Texas by far. But you know what? Nashville, Tennessee, for a little state, Tennessee is booming now. And, Nashville is the number one place for Airbnb conversions of houses. Hey, that's another perfect example, Martin. You live in New York, you pay these outrageous rents or mortgage for a tiny bit of space, and then the government, and then you say, oh, Airbnb, I can defray a third of it or half of it. This is great. This is the best thing ever. I'm going to do Airbnb. And then what happens? The mighty fist of the government comes down on you, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're doing the same thing in Greece. Mm-hmm. They're going after people to rent their houses.
Yeah, like, hey, it's your house, I thought you had like a certain bundle of rights that came with your house. And then the government can just forcibly eviscerate your bundle of rights and take them away from you because it might affect a hotel's occupancy rate by 0.5%. I don't see the plaza suffering from Airbnb. Do you, Martin?
No. I mean, this is the problem with the American justice system. It's really just us. Not
us.
justice.
That's it. Hey, we've seen it.
The problem is that Congress can legally pass a law that everybody has to kill their firstborn. Mm-hmm. Nothing there can prevent them from passing such a law.
Yep.
All right. What happens is now they come and they say, okay, fine, you have to kill your firstborn. Mm-hmm. Now you have a right to finally object. All right. If I don't have a firstborn, I have no standing in a court of law to say I think that law is unfair. Oh, sorry, it's not applied to you, so get out.
Yeah.
That's the problem we have with law. So they can do anything they want. Mm-hmm. And it's your burden, and you have to have the money for legal fees, etc., to get all the way to the Supreme Court to have it declared unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. It's a very unfair system. It should be that if Congress is going to pass a law, it should go to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court should rule first. Yes, this is good. No, it's bad. And send it back. It shouldn't be the burden of every citizen in the country. And if you don't have enough money, you don't have any rights.
It should be that, instead of having a presumption of validity of every statute the government passes and every rule they pass, there should be a presumption that it's invalid and that it violates the Constitution, and let the government prove that it doesn't. That was our big mistake, is deference, judicial deference to the executive branch. There should be no deference. It should be the opposite of deference. It should be constant scrutiny, assuming that you're trying to screw everybody, because that's what you do when you're in government.
Yeah, they've turned the Constitution upside down. It's a negative document that is supposed to have been a restraint upon government. They've turned it into, you waived your rights, so I get to torture you.
Yeah. Hey,
excuse me, you're not supposed to torture. Oh, but you waived it. It's okay now.
Yeah. Hey, and we've seen it over and over and over again. And Trump has attempted to do something. I don't know what really one man can really accomplish. Was it Jefferson who said one man with courage is a majority?
I know. I think those days are gone. But you look at that Putin meeting. Why did the Justice Department come out 2 days before and indict the Russians? That shows the deep state working against Trump. They knew that would create a controversy for his very meeting.
Yeah.
Now, if they were on his side, you don't do that before a meeting like that.
Exactly. Well, they didn't want him to arrive at any accommodation with the Russians, right? It's so obvious.
They know basically that, Obama's come out and said, look, it didn't affect the elections because nobody actually hacked into the machines. And what is the entire argument? They hacked the Democratic files and they released them. Okay, but nobody has said that they altered any.
Yeah. Very true.
Okay, so whatever was released, all the corruption that they were talking about was real.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Snowden. He's a traitor. Why? Because he told the people we were lying to him.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that a traitor against the country? If the country is the people, then he's basically telling the people that the government is lying to them.
Mm-hmm.
How is that treason?
Yeah, good question.
But they turn it into, if you rat on the government, that's treason. It's not the people.
I know. Very true.
And according to the Supreme Court, the sovereign of the nation is the people, not the government.
Yeah, and the government's here to serve you. You're not supposed to be a vassal of the state. But all of that has somehow changed.
Yeah, it's all been inverted. So, very nice words. We the people.
Yeah, we the people. Well, I guess as long as we the people put up with it, we the people are going to have to take what comes from it, right?
Yeah, this is why you end up with revolutions, because they will do whatever they can for as long as they can, and then they suddenly stand up and say, "Oh, what? I've been stealing for 50 years. You never said anything. Now all of a sudden you're mad?"
Oh, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Martin. Could not